Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host, and today we are going to be talking about judging chocolate competitions. We talk about specifically judging the 2026 Craft Chocolate Challenge and some of what it is that I learned. And by my sharing my experiences with you, what I'm hoping is that these are lessons that you can apply to your own assessment and judgment and appreciation of chocolate. And you don't need to be a judge. This is if you're just a chocolate fan and you want to think about how do I go about judging? What do judges do? And how do they go about doing it? And what can I learn from these people who do it often, maybe professionals? And how can I apply those lessons to what it is that I do? But before we jump in on this, I want to point out that this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, is sponsored by the members of the Chocolate Life. And this is the homepage of the Chocolate Life right now. Over there, you can go there. And if you're not a member, you can click on the green join button up here. There's always a free membership tier. It's hidden behind behind this. There's always a free membership tier, but if you do have the resources to be able to support the work I do financially, there are memberships that start at as little as $5 a month. And if you go into the yearly levels and at the higher levels, these include coaching and consulting hours. So if you'd like somebody to help you grow your business, start your business, in these challenging times for chocolate, let me know. Just reach out, become a member. I will be able to help you. Right? And with that, the only other thing I'd like to say, apart from subscribing, liking, and sharing, commenting on the video, the other one is to say that you can go into the live chat on YouTube or the comments on LinkedIn and Facebook. And if you've got a question or a comment about anything that I say today, get it into the comments. I will get it up on screen and I will pose the question. I'll read it out loud and I will try to answer it. And with that, let's get to the topic for today, which is this is the post for this episode. For every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, I put together a post, and this is the post for today. These are unscripted, so the post serves as a run of show. It's a reminder of what it is that I'm going to talk about over the course of the hour. So let's just get into it. So this is the fourth year that I've been a judge for the Craft Chocolate Challenge. I was the head judge for 2 years. I may have that role now. It's a little less clear. But from the beginning, Dustin Cornett, who's the founder of the challenge, came to me and said, "Hey, Clay, number one, would like you to be a judge. Do you have some ideas about how we might be able to improve the judging or make it a little more rigorous?" This is 4 years ago. I don't remember exactly what Dustin and I discussed. And I was happy to. I am a huge believer in diversity. So we want diversity of producing countries, the number of places for which chocolate makers buy beans. We want diversities in terms of the kinds of chocolate that they make. We want diversity in terms of the website and communities that get built around chocolate. We want diversity in terms of competition and how those competitions are judged, right? And the sooner, and we're talking about historically, this thing we call craft chocolate, bean to bar chocolate, really began in 1996, 97. So we're not really, we're in just in the first 30 years of this, right? And it's way too soon to narrow in on a particular way to do anything, right? So it's way too soon to narrow in, this is the way you judge chocolate, or this is the way you set up a competition, or this is what we're going to elevate to the highest ranks of what chocolate is for everyone. And diversity is important. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge supporter of the Craft Chocolate Challenge. It represents an approach to a competition that is very, very different from the way the International Chocolate Awards does it. It's very, very different from the way the Academy of Chocolate Awards does it. And people should be aware that one of the reasons why the International Chocolate Awards exists is because some of the early supporters and some of the early judges in the Academy of Chocolate didn't like the way they were doing things, and they thought they could do it better. Certainly, they do it differently. Better is a judgment call. I will leave that to everyone's individual individual ideas about what they think better means. But I'm a huge fan of diversity, and that's one of the reasons why I support the Craft Chocolate Challenge. It's aimed at startup or younger chocolate makers, those who don't necessarily think that they are ready to enter their bars into big international competitions for which there are huge fees that need to get paid. And the Craft Chocolate Challenge was set up by Dustin, who was a small chocolate maker in rural Kentucky, to be able to get the kind of feedback that he felt that he was missing. And so that's why I'm here talking today. I'm also a huge fan of what it is that Steph is doing over at Beanstalker, and we'll get to Beanstalker as well, because that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic for this episode, which is the process of going and judging, and what that means, and how the process might influence you in terms of how you judge, right? And the kinds of decisions that you make. And we'll get to those ideas very, very shortly. But that's what this is about. And before I go and jump into it, I just want to say that I've been a judge, right, at many. I'm not the most experienced chocolate competition judge, but I helped this is very early on in the 2000s, something called the Next Generation Chocolatier Competition. I was the head judge. I developed the rubric. I moderated the judging, right, for this competition. I have also been a judge at the International Chocolate Awards. I believe I've done it twice in London at the World Finals. I've done it 3 or 4 times at least in the Americas round. I've done it a couple of times. I've done it twice at least in the Peruvian competition. So I do have that experience. I was a judge at the Good Food Awards in the confectionery category. Didn't do the bar category, but I've done the confectionery category, and I was given the opportunity and the responsibility to be the head judge for my table. Because there is no formal rubric at the Good Food Awards about what good means and how judges should approach it, then each one of the different categories, like chocolate, confectionery, beer, cheese, they all get pickles. They all get to decide, right, how they're going to judge and what that means. So I've done that, and then the Premio Bean de Bar Brazil, I've done that 2 or 3 times, as well as the Craft Chocolate Challenge, and this was my 4th year doing it. So I do have some background. I do have some experience, and what I want to point out is that every single competition has a different approach to judging. The way the Academy of Chocolate Awards judges, what they ask judges to focus on, right, is one thing. What the International Chocolate Awards and how they do it has evolved. So the way they did it 10 years ago is very different from the way they do it now, in part because the owners and organizers of the International Chocolate Award have this other business called the International Institute of Cocoa and Chocolate Tasting, and they're now favoring people who've had that experience, and they're using a particular tasting rubric that they developed to help people reach their tasting certification levels. The Northwest Chocolate Festival Awards has its own method of judging. The AVPA, I've never judged the AVPA, but so for people who might be watching this who come from a cocoa producing country, the AVPA is a French competition. So the Agency for the Valorization of Agricultural Products in English, what they focus on is, chocolate which is made in countries where the cocoa is grown. And they have 2 different juries. They have a technical jury, they have a taste jury, and most importantly, everybody who is a member of one of these juries needs to be fluent in French and needs to be, for want of a better term, culturally French. So even if I was an American, even though I was fluent in French, I'm not culturally French, I would not be able to be a judge. And that's because that's the way that competition is structured. And so if you are going to enter any one of these competitions, one of the things that you can learn is to understand what the competition is for. What are they trying to judge? Who are they trying to judge? It's really, really important that you understand that so that you can maximize the value that you're going to get from entering the competition. And that's one of the lessons that I've learned being a judge is that you look at the people who enter, you look at the people that win, you look at the kinds of things that win in particular competitions. And this is the lesson that I've learned, which is that you need to do your homework if you want to be able to have any kind of chance at winning in one of these competitions. If that's your goal. I mean, so the Craft Chocolate Challenge has always been about providing feedback. So it's that's less so in the International Chocolate Awards. There is some feedback. The judges are not required to provide feedback. You have to pay extra for feedback for the Northwest Chocolate Festival. You don't pay anything to join the Craft Chocolate Challenge. So when you go in and you look right at any one of these competitions, you need to do your homework and understand how it fits into where you are in your business. And that's one of the things that I've learned as a judge. There are many people, and this is more true 10 years ago than it was now. There are many people who enter competitions and they're just not ready to enter, right? And my counsel to you, I mean, and it's wonderful to be able to see the progress that was made. For example, I was a judge in the first Premio Bean to Bar Brazil in Sao Paulo in 2017. I was the only non-Brazilian judge in that competition. And I have to say that, when I was judging in 2020, actually last year, 2025, the quality of work that I was judging was just amazing, right? The difference in where Brazil and the bean to bar community was in 2017 and where it was in 2025 is amazing. And part of that is understanding who the judges are, what they're looking for, what the framework of the competition is going to be. And that's the number one lesson that I want to share with you, which is understand what you're joining. Right. Before I continue, what I want to do is we have a couple of questions and comments. So the first one is all the way from South Africa. My name is Fas. So Linkramat Fas, a new chocolatier in Sierra Leone, West Africa. You are doing a great job. Thank you very much. I haven't been to Sierra Leone, although I was at a CHOCOA, I want to say 2017, 2018, when somebody said, "Hey, Clay, if you just happen to be in Sierra Leone, come and look me up." I would love to have the ability to go and look somebody up in Sierra Leone, but I haven't been there. But thank you very much, all the way from Sierra Leone. Appreciate the kind words and the encouragement. For Brent Evans. Brent, recognize the name Indigenous Chocolate. So everybody should know that Indigenous Chocolate was a multi-award winner. Is that true? No, you won at least one award in your first year of entering the Craft Chocolate Challenge this year. And Brent, I want to say thank you very much in public for becoming a guru member of the Chocolate Life. Your support is really, really valued. I know I sent you an email in response. Looking forward to working with you over the course of the next year to help Indigenous chocolate grow. Trying to keep up as I appear to have a terrible connection today. I'm sorry to hear that. And I can see people dropping in and out, and I don't know if they're coming in and they've got a connection. Not entirely sure what that is, but Brent, thank you very, very much, and congratulations on your win in the Craft Chocolate Challenge this year. And then my email address or contact for further engagements, please. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the member support email address in the chat. Pardon me, I'm not at my keyboard in a way, member.support@thechocolate.com. There we go as a return. So everybody, let me know if you can see that, Foss, and let me know, because for everybody, just quickly put it up on the screen. There is an email address that you can get in touch with me at. Yep. So, right. So, two awards. Number one is, I believe you won the silver in the dark chocolate category and then silver in the best overall. So again, congratulations to and thanks for being here today. So what I want to do is I want to talk about judging and what I've learned about judging. And I also want to point out that there are links on today's post where what you can do is you can go to Beanstalker. So Beanstalker is a website about chocolate bar reviews and the business of chocolate and festivals, all sorts of things about chocolate. Excuse me. And the owner of it is Steph, is in Australia. And Dustin Cornett, who is the founder of the Craft Chocolate Challenge, got together with Steph. And Steph agreed to let us use the Beanstalker platform to judge the Craft Chocolate Challenge. Right? And I'm going to go into what that means in a little bit more depth, but that's what this is. And I want to let people know that this is a fabulous resource. Number one is if you are in the business of making chocolate, you can register your business on the website. And so people can get to know you. It's free. You can register your business. If you want to, right? You can review chocolate bars. And so there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chocolate bars. These are just a few of the ones that have been done. Almost all of these were from this year's Craft Chocolate Challenge. There's a blog, right? Where she writes about things, you can figure things out. One of the things I want to talk about is this thing called the Beanstalker Community Tasting Panel. And what this says is that if you judge any of the bars which are entered into the 2026 Craft Chocolate Challenge, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be eligible for winning some chocolate. So become a part of the community tasting panel. And this is something that I think Dustin is talking with Steph about making a permanent part of the entire Craft Chocolate Challenge process, which is how do we engage chocolate loving members of the general public in the process of rating and reviewing chocolate, and chocolate which has been entered into a competition. For example, you may find that the way you review a chocolate is very, very similar to the way that professionals do, or at least the judges in this competition do, and which is really, really interesting, not only for us to know, but for you to know. Right, that you agree with the judges or you don't agree with the judges, and where do you agree with the judges and where do you not agree with the judges? And no other competition in the world does that. And that's another lesson I've learned that you can take away with you, which is engage with competitions which enable you to participate in a meaningful way. Maybe you don't win chocolate, but here's a chance as being a part of the Beanstalker Community Tasting panel, where you get to learn. It's an opportunity for you to learn by seeing how other people rate the same chocolate. And you're using exactly the same user interface and using exactly the same, you're working within exactly the same limitations. And so it's really, really good. And that's another thing that I would suggest. If you want to get better at rating and reviewing chocolate, that yes, there's a personal aspect of doing it privately, but being able to engage in group exercises is really, really important. And you can get better and better and better without having to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars going and taking a certification class. And if you don't intend to be a professional, what do you do with the certification? It's an interesting question about whether it makes sense economically for you. And so this is the public-facing Beanstalker site. What I want to do is also say that here's a link to the Craft Chocolate Challenge, right? And this is to the homepage of the Craft Chocolate Challenge. And then here are the winners for season 5. And this is something that the Craft Chocolate Challenge does, I think, a little better than almost everyone else. So one thing I need to talk to Dustin about is putting links to the websites for these companies, because they're not here. But You have the list of all the winners. You also have a profile for each one of the judges. If you go to Beanstalker and, or any place else, I'm judge number 2. Right? So, right, in case anybody, judges are not required to say who they are. They're not required to keep it private. But essentially, if you're a chocolate maker, so Brent, when you receive the feedback from all of the judges, you can look at the ones that say, "Oh, judge number 2," and that's me, right? So you know that. So that's another thing so if, in case you needed to, you could reach out to me and say, "What the heck were you thinking?" So there's that. The other thing that the Craft Chocolate Challenge does, right? And the reason why I'm mentioning this is if you want to enter into a competition, right? Dustin has one page where what it is that he's done is he has identified all of the different companies that have entered the competition ever, right? And so it may not look like a lot of different companies. As a judge, I can tell you that this year there were 67 bars that were judged. So it's a lot of chocolate to judge. And unlike other competitions in the Craft Chocolate Challenge, every judge judges every entry. For example, if there are somewhere, I mean, the last time I was given access to numbers for the International Chocolate Award, there were over 800 entries. And that's probably 2017 or 2018. There were over 800 entries. And I don't care how many judges you have, right? There's no way that makers are going to send 800 samples, right? So then, so it's just impossible, right? And so if you're getting feedback, you don't know who you're getting feedback from. And so again, understand, it's part of this larger concept, understand what you want to get from a particular award. So, and understand how they're judging, and then understand what they reward, right? That's homework that you need to do. I can't help you. I mean, I could help you if you wanted to become a member of the chocolate life and ask my advice on how to go and do these things. These are things I could advise on, right? But you need to understand, if your goal is feedback, then enter into awards which provide feedback. If you want to understand which judges, right, based on their profile, is giving you which feedback, then enter that competition. If you don't care about who's giving you feedback, just the feedback, that's another thing. But if your goal is feedback, make sure that the competition is going to deliver feedback. One of the other things to consider, right, is that if you go take a look, for example, at the history of the International Chocolate Awards, and this is something that I have done. So I've taken a look at who has won in 2025 at the Worlds, and who has won in 2024 in the Worlds, and who has won in 2023 in the Worlds. What you do is you find a huge overlap. There's 20, 40, 50 different companies that seem to appear every single year. And you get a company like Frizz Home, I know that that in the European Bean to Bar competition in 2018, I know this because I did the work, right? That they were single-handedly responsible for the country of Nicaragua being the country that provided the beans to the most winning entries, because Frizz Home won so many entries. But I know that Frizz Home has been winning chocolate with similar bars, if not identical bars, but similar bars for close to a decade. And one of the things that the Craft Chocolate Challenge does is it says, listen, if you've won a number of awards from us, right, then, and the number is 3, what we're going to do is we're going to graduate you into a master's, right? And what that means is, as a master, you can no longer enter the competition to be considered for an award. You can enter the competition just for feedback if you feel like you need feedback, but the judges are told that this is for feedback only, right? This is not for an award. And so this year we had 2 new members join: Mike King, Mark and Yuri Joyce of Blue Spruce Chocolate in Colorado, and Tomomo and Yasuko Kaneko of Sweets Escalier in Japan, joining Mike King of Encore Coffee. Whoops, let me scroll this down. Mike King of Encore Coffee, Liang Wang of Kesho, and Tandy Peterson of Embers Chocolate. Right. Now, we want to keep these people involved. And so for the next year, there's going to be a master's competition. There are only going to be these 5 companies who are asked to enter the master's competition. This award is separate from all the other awards, right? So it's not going to impact everything else that's going on. And there's no category. It's just, hey, guys, send us your best. And the judges will pick one as being the best of the 5 that was entered, right? So that's really, really exciting. So one thing to consider, again, lessons learned as a judge, take a look and see if the competition is evolving in meaningful ways. Right? So this wasn't an issue. This notion of a master wasn't an issue until we had, right, an entrant who was winning a lot. And we wanted to say, if we only have 4 categories, inclusions, white, milk, and dark, if we only have 4 categories and there are only 3 winners, right? You run the risk of the same company winning over and over again. Now, another way we solve that problem, Dustin solved the problem, is what we say is that you can't enter more than 2 bars into the competition, and you can't enter more than 1 bar into any one category. So if you go to the International Chocolate Awards, you go to any other awards, and what you do is you say, oh, I'm going to enter 7 things into the same category, right? Your likelihood of winning something goes up, and actually the number is 3, right? If you enter 3 bars into the same category, your likelihood of winning at least a bronze position, especially in the International Chocolate Awards, in the Academy of Chocolate Awards, where there's no limit to the number of awards that are given, right? All you have to do is hit a certain score, and above a certain score, everybody wins, right? That's something to know about the competition. And what we wanted to do, what Dustin wanted to do with the Craft Chocolate Challenge, is to not get to a point where the same people were winning over and over and over, crowding out the people who we felt the competition would be able to serve. We have done our work for Tandy. She has won 3 awards. She's won in other competitions. We don't, we feel like as a master, as an alumna, excuse me, we have helped her. And we are going to continue to help her. Hey, you want us to judge a new bar? We will, right? And we're going to create a new category, which is the masters. And you have to be a master to compete in it. So you're still competing, but you're competing with your peers in a kind of way, which is really, really fun. And it's an open. You get to pick whatever it is that you want, any kind of chocolate, any kind of recipe, any kind of inclusion. It doesn't matter. Just wow the judges. And that's really, really fabulous. And this is a way in which the Craft Chocolate Challenge has evolved. I mean, it understands what its mission is and what it is trying to achieve and how it has evolved to keep a balance for moving forward. I mean, Dustin is saying, I'm looking at the way the entries are coming in. So we have a lot more dark chocolate entries than milk and white chocolate entries. Could we go and change the way that we are organizing the categories? And so that is something that is being considered for season 6 of the competition, right? Whereas if you take a look at the International Chocolate Awards, the evolution has been in a place where you can't see it, which is they've migrated slowly towards using the IICCT educational rubric as part of the judging rubric. And the evolution seems to be in the number of categories that they done. I did some work, and it's like there are 9 or 10 different categories and either 38 or 39 different subcategories. When they started out, that wasn't the case, right? But if you're going to have 1,000 entries, you can reasonably be certain that you're going to have, at least 10 or at least 15 entries into each. And so you have enough entries to make giving an award make sense. And so that's a kind of evolution, but the basic methodology, what they're trying to promote, what they're trying to judge, has been pretty much the same since it was started. 2012. It may be as long ago as that. Actually, maybe a little bit older. But think about it again from the point of view of a judge. If you're going to be entering one of these competitions, then think about what the competition does, where you are in your path, and what you're looking to achieve by entering the competition. And that will help you tremendously in terms of deciding how to go about and be more successful, or getting the best value out of the time and money, whether it's cash or whether it's just the cost of shipping and the cost of goods, to be able to enter the competition. So having done that, what I want to do is I want to go very, very quickly, and I'm going to go to, I'm a judge, right? And so so you're looking at me logged in to the back end of Beanstalker as a judge. And there are some bugs, so some of this information is not quite correct. But I have these are the reviews that I've left for the Craft Chocolate Challenge since the very, very beginning. And I'm not going to go into any one of these reviews. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little test bar. So this is not a real bar, right? It is a test bar. And I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to you about what it is that we as judges are asked to do, right? And if you go to the Craft Chocolate Challenge, or if you go to Beanstalker and you are going to review a bar, you're going to go through a similar process. So let's zoom up on this just a little bit. So it can be a little more obvious to you, but the great thing about this is that you can go to Beanstalker, you can sign up for an account, and you're going to see something like this, right? So, which is really, really cool. Right? So the first thing that Beanstalker asks you to do, it asks you to do the generic aroma and taste test. Right? So snap, sniff, taste, and share. And then it's select your flavor notes from the chocolate wheel, right? And then you have to give it a verdict, whether you loved it, whether you liked it, it was okay or didn't like it. All of this information is going to be made public, right? That comes from this page. Then they're asking you to share a memory about the chocolate. And then they're going to ask you to say, yeah, I know what I'm doing when I hear I've read the terms and conditions. But here's the interesting, and I'm going to go and I'm going to zoom up on the flavor wheel. So this is where Beanstalker is different from other competitions, and it's different from the way we judged the Craft Chocolate Challenge the first 3 years. In the Craft Chocolate Challenge for the first 3 years, we didn't have a lexicon. We didn't have, pick from among these flavors. And one of the challenges of the Craft Chocolate Challenge or Craft Chocolate Challenge using Beanstalker, and it can be seen as a negative as it can be seen as a positive. If the flavor doesn't exist on this wheel, it doesn't get exposed and isn't made available in the same way. So, forget the fact that, vegetal is still misspelled. But we have in the fruity, we have citrus, tropical, berry, stone fruit, melon, banana, and cranberry, right? But why is vanilla in the banana plant and it's not a spice, right? I don't understand that. Listen, as a judge, this makes it challenging for me. I need to remember that vanilla is way over here and not where I would expect to find it. Capsicum is a Britishism. It's often used to refer to green bell pepper or black bell pepper, but we have black pepper, cayenne, capsicum. This, right, it makes no sense to me. Why is thyme considered to be a capsicum category? Tomato is a capsicum. It's not. So while it's really, really interesting to be able to have a flavor lexicon available to you, as you're eating through the bars, you can look at this wheel and you can say, is this what I'm tasting? Right? And you can go around and you can decide yes or no. It is what it is that I'm tasting. We have a black tea. Are there other forms of green tea than matcha? Um, uh, you know, there's no white tea in here. I mean, they're they're so it's idiosyncratic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's idiosyncratic, right? Um, but you do need to recognize that this is um, a particular lexicon. It's a particular way of approaching it. And none of this is standardized across the chocolate and cocoa industry. Um, so I just want to let you know. So if you are going to be judging in any competition, right, the kinds of flavors that you're asked to take a look at or presented to you and that you can pick from are going to narrow the range of how you judge something. Right? And what this says to me, the lesson to be learned here is that there is an enormous amount of value in using different ways of tasting, taking a look at different tasting methods, right? And different methodologies, different lexicons, right? And become practiced and comfortable using different ones. So if the only thing you know, right, because you've been through perhaps all three certification levels, is the the International Institute for Cocoa and Chocolate Tasting lexicon, then you're going to be thinking about chocolate the same way. And as I say, we need diversity, right? It's way too soon in this to be able to say that this is the right way to do this and everybody should do it this way. There is the tasting with color that Hazel Lee has put together. There's this rubric that's put together. There's the Cocoa of Excellence or Cacao of Excellence program. There are lots of ways to go about thinking about this, right? And rather than you're focusing on a specific way to do it, the goal on your part should be to be comfortable with lots of different ways. So if you are developing your own methodology, then what you want to do is you want to pick and choose, right? You say, I like this from this one, and this from this one, and this from this one, and absolutely. And really quick, so Eduardo, not a single bar from Colombia. That is true. In this year's Craft Chocolate Challenge, I believe that's what you're referring to. There were no bars from Colombia which were entered into the competition this year. What we do is we set out. Dustin does. I do because I support the competition. Is we set out through our networks on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all over the place. So I have a group on Facebook called Salones Internacionales de Cacao y Chocolate, which I founded in 2013 after going to the Salon del Cacao y Chocolate in Lima, in Peru. And I want to say of the 10,000 members, 70% of them are from South America. And I say, hey, if you want to enter the competition, enter the competition. So I do the best that I can to do that. And so we're not in control. If nobody in Colombia wants to join, there's not a whole lot we can do. Yes, and Eduardo, I was assuming that's what you're talking about. We had 11 countries this year. I mean, Japan. I know there were people from Honduras. There are people from all over Latin America. Not certain why nobody from Colombia entered this year. But perhaps you will be the first one next year. It will be announced in sometime in November after the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival. So, so hopefully you can join us next year. But think about this. So think about this as both a positive. Oh, as you're thinking, right? I can go and here are the flavors that I should be looking for, right? But oh, here are the flavors I should be looking for. There's always the chance that, number one, you taste a flavor and it's not here, right? Or there's a flavor which is described in a different kind of way. For example, vanilla is over on banana rather than over spicy. And this is herbal spicy, but vegetal, there's no herbs. I mean, nuts are in herbal spicy. I mean, that's, again, it's an interesting it's an interesting way to go think about doing that. So Eduardo says, you work with the farms, need to find a maker. Understand completely. But what you may want to do is, if you work with the farmers and you can find a maker, then something like the AVPA competition, which is A V as in Victor, P as in Peter, AVPA.fr. So Frank Roger, maybe their chocolate competition may be for you, because it's a chocolate made in the same country, in a producing country. So that would also be another one for you. And it's an entirely different judging process, but absolutely something to be considered. So this is, in my opinion, it's a good thing, right? But it can also be limiting in the sense that you may not seek beyond these flavors. It's also a little obvious, it's a little obvious. So we have this category called dark sugars, which I don't know if you can see here. I'm at the limit of my zoom ratio. Oh, I'm here, I can get it, but I'm at this dark sugars category. And I don't know about you, but I can't tell the difference between Jaggery, Panella, and Muscovado and Demerara in chocolate, right? And so I am not very likely to go and into this level of detail. I mean, coconut sugar is certainly something that I recognize. It is a very, very distinct sugar, but I'm more likely just to pick dark sugars because I can't define it. And then we have a couple of other sweeteners which are under honey, like golden syrup, golden syrup is from sugar. It's an interesting kind of challenge to do this. Sour cherry is in cranberry. Again, grapes are in cranberry. It's an idiosyncratic way to put together. So yeah, here's black treacle over here in the dark sugars, right? But golden syrup is not. We have a vinegar, but why only apple cider vinegar? So again, understand that all of these terms should be in your vocabulary, right? Because these are flavors that can appear in chocolate. Right? Is this the only way to organize them? No. Can you organize them in a way that makes the most sense for you? Absolutely yes. Right. So if you're going to judge, right, you have to either type them in or you have to say, oh, I taste some chocolatey notes and there are some red fruit notes. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to say berry. There's some blackberry. I don't know what mulberry tastes like in chocolate. And what happens if you select them from here and they show up on this list in the top? So they slip, right? Or I can say milk, right? And I can select milk, and these are the way I select the flavors, right? The other thing it wants me to do right away, it wants me to talk about aromas, it wants me to do right away, is it wants me to give it a verdict, right? And so, and then it wants me to, does this remind you of something, right? Maybe. So, and then I have to click terms and condition in order to go to the next page, right? And I don't necessarily want to make all of the judging decisions immediately, right? Because that's not the way I think about doing the judging, right? So I always, right, go and just enter gobbledygook in the first page. I just enter a flavor, just pick anything, liked it, didn't like it, just pick anything, put nani nani na in the memory, and then click on the I agree to the terms and conditions and come to this page, right? And so what I'm going to do is first thing I'm likely to do is look at the chocolate packaging. So I've got the packaging in front of me. I open up the packaging, and you know what? I'm going to make this a little easier for you to see me. I'm going to look at the packaging first, right? So I'm going to write a description. I'm going to say what it is that I think about the packaging, because giving feedback about the packaging is one of the things that judges are asked to do. Do we like it? We don't like it. Did we find a particular thing annoying? Was all the information that was needed there? I often look and say, well, there's misspelling and grammar errors, and the way things are described wouldn't pass if somebody really wanted to take a look at the labeling, which is associated with standards of identity. They wouldn't pass, at least here in the United States. So a lot of it is very, very practical advice, right? In terms of, it needs in the United States, the weight needs to be on the front, and your bar doesn't have the weight on the front, right? So that's something simple. If you're a craft chocolate maker and you're entering the competition, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that if you're making a single origin claim, you want to say, what the origin, what the name of the producing country is on the front, right? And you want to make it visible if that's part of what you're talking about. And that's often not done or not done well. And so, you're going to get feedback from 8 or 9, right, judges who are going to give you packaging feedback. And this is one place where I've seen a number of entrants and winners in the Craft Chocolate Challenge evolve over the course of the years. That if we look at the packaging they did in previous years and we look at the packaging for this year, many of them have made enormous strides in the quality of their packaging. And I don't know if that's because they've responded to comments from the judges, but they have. Right. And then what we do is we give it an overall score in the packaging of A to F. Right. The next thing I do is I am going to, so this chocolate mold score, and you see bar mold appearance easy to eat. This is two different things. So you look at the bar and you say, technically, is this, was it well tempered? Was it well deposited? So are there pinholes and things like that? So this is we're asked to do an in-depth visual evaluation of the bars. And I can tell you that there are 2 places where I see a lot of challenges. Number one is that, you've got a 75-gram bar mold and you fill it to 70 grams. And what happens is the chocolate creeps up the inside of the mold and you have little wings, and those wings get broken off and you get debris, which works its way around to the front of the bar and making the front of the bar not look very nice. Right. So that's one thing to consider. That's perhaps my single most common comment that I make is that, the mold was underfilled and there's a lot of debris. Right. You're evaluating. So if it's a dark chocolate, you're looking for a particular surface sheen. The surface sheen is going to give you a clue. You snap it, right? And so you go through that evaluation. And that's where the easiness to eat is going to be, appearance and easiness to eat. We're looking at the bar. We're looking at it. So what does the bite look like? What is the bite like? What is the chew like? What is the melt like? Are we getting a texture on it? This is all about the physical sensation, right? There is also, this is where most of the way I use this is where I give most of my feedback away about what is the flavor evolution. Even though this is about easiness to eat, it's about, it started off this way, and then it was very, very even, and then it cleaned out of the mouth, quickly and easily. I mean, those are things that I would do here, but I would also talk about the flavor evolution of the product in this particular as well. And then I'm going to come back here and, if there is anything, so at this point, it says any additional flavors, this thing isn't working. Even though I can go and move on it, it's not putting anything anywhere, right? So this is all about, I don't know why I don't need this reference here because I've already entered the flavor stuff in the previous one. But this is where you're going to say, well, it wasn't just pineapple, it was dried pineapple, right? And it was basil, which I don't think basil, I misspelled pineapple, right? So we got pineapple, basil is not one of the flavors that's over here. Dried leaves, so basil is not a flavor. Is it? Yeah, it's not a flavor. So if I wanted to say basil, I need to put it here, right? And this works because, I mean, this is here, so like I know what flavors were available to me in the previous pass, and I can enter them here. So any additional flavors for me, it's like, um, this is the most challenging field because I felt like I got past this, and then what am I gonna talk about here? Um, uh, is it a different kind of nuts? I mean, maybe what I might do is like, here I'm going to say like, oh, was there a walnut skin astringency that I felt in tasting this, right? And it was specifically walnut skin. It's going to be down here. I'm probably not going to put it here, right? But these are just, again, these are the particular ways that this particular judging system is put together. It is neither good nor bad. It is what it is. And as a judge, one of the things that I've learned, right, in the competition is how do I go about um, taking this process, which seems to want me to go from point A to point B to point C and make it work for me, right? And that's really important. That's what I've done. On the first page, I just enter placeholder stuff, except for I just enter placeholder stuff to get to this page, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next page, which is this is interesting. Would I buy this for friends or family, right? And so the answer is yes or no. And you might have a particular kind of person. This is a particular person in mind. So, for example, if this is is this a bar with coffee in it, you might say, I would buy this bar from friends of mine who are also coffee lovers because I think the coffee and chocolate combination is interesting. This is something that a lesson that I have learned, right? When I think about rating any chocolate, when I think about reviewing any chocolate, who is this chocolate for? Who is the likely consumer of this chocolate, right? And if you're a maker of chocolate, right, this is one of the bits of feedback that I would pay a lot of attention to. Like, what do people think about? Would they buy this? Would they recommend it? If they do or buy or recommend it, for whom would they buy it and recommend it? Right? To get an idea is like, because what people are saying, what the judges are saying, may be very different from what you thought you were, who you thought you were making the bar for. So this is a really, really important um, uh, field for me. I also always want to give back. So this is the final page of the judging. So we have to do a complexity level. So is it a complexity from a scale of 1? So it's bland or boring at one end and very distinct at another, right? And distinct doesn't have to be good distinct. I mean, I've had bars that were just like insanely acidic and they just, right? They were distinct, not in a good way. And this is an overall evaluation. Then what we have is we want to go take a look at its distinctive notes, where we say, was it astringent? Was it bitter? Was it acidic? Was it sweet, overly sweet? Were there any defects? Sweaty, cheesy, ashy smoke, medicinal, metallic, moldy, fungal. And sometimes you've entered some of these things into other flavors, right? Although what I tend to do is I tend to not enter those and not enter those flavors in the previous page and just enter these as defects here. So I'm not describing them, right? I might describe them if I am being very, if there's a reason to. But then final notes on snap, aroma, mouthfeel, finish, and any other physical attributes. And for me, this is always a challenge because I've done the snap, mouthfeel, finish on the previous page in the easiness to eat thing, right? Because I'm in there thinking about it and I want to do it then rather than jump to this page and jump back. So this is just the way I've been using this particular rubric. It's neither good nor bad. It is what it is. It's the way as a judge, right? But if you're going to be a judge or you're going to be rating and reviewing chocolate on your own, what's really important to understand is that the order of things that you do things in, right, needs to accommodate the way you work, right? Or it will be more natural, right? If it is ordered in a way that you work. If it's out of an order that doesn't seem out of the order, that doesn't seem natural to you, it's going to be harder to judge. Now, this may not be a problem if you're just rating and reviewing for your own purposes and you're not really going to share it with anyone. But when you're rating 60 bars, right, and you want to do it in a week, which means 10 bars a day, which is quite a number of them, right? You need to be efficient, right? And so understanding how to use the judging system is important. Or if you're creating your own, don't necessarily say, well, this is the order that it needs to get done in, right? If there's an order that makes more sense to you, lesson learned, there's an order that makes more sense to you, do it. And so what I've done here is I change the order. I will go through, I use it the way that I want to use it, right? And then when I get done with all of these things, right, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go, oh, well, after I've had a chance to evaluate it, here are the flavors, right? And here are the aromas that I've got. And here's where I'm going to make a definitive judgment of whether I liked it or loved it or didn't like it, right? And if there is a memory, I'm going to share this memory. So this is the way it works for me. This is the way I do it. Again, right? I mean, my major considerations with Steph are like, fixing words like vegetal, getting the spelling right. I think that as long as the flavors are here, that there are small rearrangements of this wheel that can be done. I don't know that there's any way to make huge changes in this and be able to keep the old schema like the new schema in order to make it work. So I'm not going to do that. But I have made this work for me. And that's really, really important. And that's the most important lesson to learn for you, is that you may be presented with an order, right? So for example, the Premio Bean de Bar Brazil, everything is in one page. And you're tempted to go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And that may be, right? That is what is implied when you look at this. But if you find that it makes more sense to do it in a different order, do it in a different order, right? In this particular competition, what they want us to choose particular flavor descriptors from this wheel. But what you might have is other flavor descriptors. You might have a copy of the Tasting with Chocolate or Tasting with Color rubric or some other flavor guide, right? In which case you can go along, you can do that. And on the next page where it says other flavors, you enter those. Really, really important that you make this work for you rather than saying, I have to fit the way I do this into the way the way that the framework, the format, the rubric, the order of things are suggested. No need to do that. Make it work for you. If you can do that, it makes judging, it makes rating and reviewing a whole lot easier. You will be a lot happier. It doesn't feel forced, right? It can be a challenge if you've got to get 65 bars done in a particular period of time. If every time you go in, it's a little different. I also want to point out something really, really interesting that happened this year, which is that Dustin, that's not fun. Wouldn't you know that it happened in the middle of a, I'm not going to show you my password, everybody. But the Dustin sent everybody all of the entries in a CVS file. And what I was able to do is I was able to upload the CVS file. Here I'm in Google Docs, and I added a couple of columns to this. Let me make this a little smaller. I added a couple of columns to this. So one of which is I added a column here. Let me zoom this up a little bit, which is called Judged. And so as I went and judged a bar, I was able to give it a checkoff, right? So I knew that if, I had bars left that I hadn't judged, I go, what's going on here? And it turns out that there were 2 or 3 bars that were in the box that weren't on this list. And so I was able to go figure out what they were and update this list, right? The other thing that we had is I had who the company name was so I could do it alphabetically. I have the name of the bar. that I could refer to it. But the other thing is most importantly, is that I had the link to the judging page on Beanstalker, and I could go and easily get to the page where I needed to rate and review. Really, really cool. Really, really important. The other thing that I did is I entered what the score was, the overall flavor score, that I could do this. And so what I was able to do is just on my own write a little formula that says, "Ooh, what is the distribution of my flavors that I gave? What are the distribution of scores?" And it turns out that, I gave 19 fives and 21 fours and 19 threes and 8 twos and no ones this year. The other thing I was able to do is keep track is, did I want to be able to nominate anybody for an innovation award? And then more importantly is that I ended up having a challenge with accessing Beanstalker, right? There was some reason the site was down, or I wasn't seeing something in my browser, and I wasn't certain if Beanstalker was saving it. And so what I was able to do is I was able to enter all my different scores, right, into a spreadsheet. And it turns out that I'm not going to show you what they are, but I was able to, when Beanstalker wasn't available, I was able to go and keep track of things, keep judging, which is really important if I was going to get things done on time. So this is another example of where make it work for you, I think, is one of the most important aspects of working on judging. Make it work for you. You're presented with a list of flavors. If you need more flavors, provide other lists of flavors. If you need to reorganize the way things are done, reorganize the way things are being done. Make it work for you, make it efficient, understand that you're supposed to be having fun, right? It's not supposed to be hard work. But I can tell you that if you're judging 67 bars at the level of detail that I showed you in terms of packaging and thinking about who this is for and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot of extra work that the judges are being asked to do. And if you're going to be doing this, then you need to consider what that all means and to make it as efficient for you as you possibly can. Right. And with that, again, here's the post on the Chocolate Life. You can go there and you can link to the Craft Chocolate Challenge. If you want to learn more about the Craft Chocolate Challenge, you can go directly to the Beanstalker homepage and sign up, become a member. Or if you don't sign up, become a member because you're not interested in promoting your business for free or getting your bars rated for free. I can't understand why anybody would want that kind of feedback in a global community. There's something like, I think there's certainly over like 20,000 individual reviews, not bars, because, for each of the Craft Chocolate Challenge, there's, 8 or 9 or 10 entries. And there may be more. But you'll find out where there are chocolate festivals around the world. There's a global maker of the week. There's a blog thing, a blog post, chocolate festivals that are being done, a calendar, as you can see. And if you have a business in chocolate, you can enter it here. Upcoming events, all sorts of things to keep on top of. So it's a great community to be a part of. But keep in mind that if you are going to rate and review chocolate bars, the way you're being asked to rate and review chocolate bars is a little bit different from the way other sites ask you to review bars and competitions ask you to review bars. Not a good thing, not a bad thing. It is just what it is, right? But you need to be aware of it, right? And we're past time. We've been running a little long for the last couple of episodes. This is the homepage of Pod Save Chocolate right now. Now, I'm going to go over to Safari because there's something there. A couple of things I want to say before we go. June is the 25th anniversary of when I set my shingle out online, chocophile.com, in June of 2001. So 25th anniversary is going to be in the month of June. I was going to be doing a tasting in the month of June, which I did for my 20th, and people would be able to buy bars. But what I've done after talking with Dustin is I'm going to move my 25th anniversary tasting celebration to be around the time of the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival. And the reason why I'm going to do that is that many winners of the Craft Chocolate Challenge are going to be coming to the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival. And so what I can do is I can offer to the people who want to be a part of that tasting. So it'll be an online virtual tasting. And if we have people if you just happen to be in Rushville, Indiana for the festival, we can do it in person, which would be pretty cool, I think. But that's going to be something. But there are going to be some things going on for the 25th anniversary, which is in the month of June. One of the things I would like people to do is to get the PodSafe Chocolate channel to over 1,000 members by the end of June. And on the homepage, there's this click to help me reach 1,000 members. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go over to PodSafe Chocolate on YouTube if you're not watching at YouTube, and go subscribe to the channel. Like and comment. All of those things are going to be help. We've got a couple of likes from YouTube on this post today. And the other thing I want to point out, in addition to this episode of PodSafe Chocolate, is sponsored by the members of the Chocolate Life, is that I did an episode of PodSafe Chocolate last week about Atlas production software. And this is what I'm doing is I've been able to negotiate with Scott, who's the developer of the software, for special discounts for members of the Chocolate Life. And so you can go to this post, you can click on the ad, and you can read the discounts, right? If you are a Team TCO Guru member, you can get a 50% discount, which is going to be a $600 per year savings. And that's a perpetual discount. It's not a $600 off the first year, it's $600 off of every year. And if you want to learn more about what is in PodSafe Chocolate, you have this competitive comparison features table. And then there is, I don't know why this is wrong. Oh, here we go. It is right. Then you can go watch the episode of PodSafe Chocolate. And you can learn more, where we did a demo and interview. So you can learn more about it. So if you are looking to make your chocolate making experience more efficient, you're using some spreadsheets and maybe you're using some online software, you can merge it all together and you can look at your production in one place and have a real dashboard, real console on what you're doing. If you want to make sure you're compliant with the Code of Federal Regulations 21.163 about what sweet chocolate is, what milk chocolate is, what white chocolate is, this will make sure that your recipes are in compliance. If you want to produce nutrition labels, the software will produce nutrition labels, and that's just scratching the surface of what the software can do. You can go and become a member of the Chocolate Life and get significant discounts on the software. You're supporting Scott, who's the developer of the software, and you're supporting the Chocolate Life at the same time. And that, I want to say thanks to everybody for joining me here today. I hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope that you learned something about judging chocolate, right? That's some of the lessons that I've learned over doing the Craft Chocolate Challenge. And it's not just this year, but it's using Beanstalker, the Craft Chocolate Challenge, thinking about these things, right? In terms of the history of the other competitions that I've judged, that what you do is that you find them valuable. And let me know, right? Become a member of the Chocolate Life. You can go into the comments on the Chocolate Life. You can do it here on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I read them all. I don't necessarily read them all immediately, but I do read them all and I respond to them. And so your feedback is very, very much appreciated. And again, Eduardo, thank you very much. I'm glad that you enjoyed today's post. And with that, everybody, I want to say have a great weekend. I have no idea what this Tuesday's episode of PodSafe Chocolate is going to be. I'm working on it. But until then, remember, if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Ciao.